Do you know the feeling? I'm going to stop drawing now. This is it. This is my last drawing. And yet, while I'm frustrated with my drawing experience, something inside me knows that I'm going to be equally frustrated if I give up drawing, because there's something in me that for some reason wants to keep drawing. I feel I've got myself in a situation where I just can't win. What can I do? Let me give you some thoughts that might help you to navigate where this feeling is coming from so that you can actually make some real choices about it rather than feeling trapped. In general terms, we feel frustrated when a goal that we have, a purpose that we have, something that we want to be working towards seeing happen becomes blocked. When we suddenly realize that we're not getting to the place that we're wanting to get to. So if frustration comes from blocked goals, working out the goals that are being blocked is a really fundamental way of dealing with the frustration. Sometimes they're goals that we actually have recognized and consciously held up in front of us on our journey, but at other times, the goals are ones that we've never actually put into words or acknowledged ourselves, and yet they're still very real, and they equally give rise to frustration. Well, here are some possible goals we may have when we draw. First one, often we start to draw because we think we're talented in drawing. Possibly people have told us from when we were very young that we were very good at drawing. We've always thought it's going to be a strength area for us, and so we draw to see how well we can do, thinking that we're probably going to do pretty well because, well, we're so talented. Sometimes if we're honest, our goal is more, well, I think I'm going to be able to draw really well, and if I can draw really well, then that will say something good about me and I'll feel better about myself, and perhaps other people will like me more as well. So really, that's why I'm drawing. Perhaps I see what other creative people are doing, friends of mine, and I'm jealous of what I think they're getting from their creative success. And so I'm wanting to find an area where I can be like them, and so I'm hoping that drawing will do that for me. Perhaps what I really want to do is be successful on social media, and I'm hoping that drawing can be the vehicle where I can get recognition, where I can get opportunity. Perhaps I need to earn extra money, or I really want to learn extra money, and so I'm hoping my drawing will give me a side hustle. I'm hoping my drawing will open up ways I can use my art to make and sell products. Perhaps deep down, I've just always wanted to be an artist at the opening of my exhibition. Or possibly my goal in drawing is much simpler. Perhaps I've just always found the process of drawing soothing and calming, and so I actually draw it to enjoy the process without any expectation or goal or aim for what I end up drawing. Do any of these ring a bell with why you might be drawing? And it doesn't matter if they sound noble or selfish. Whatever is. So without any judgment, just jot down, why am I drawing now? What are the goals I'm hoping to achieve in my drawing? Because if I'm frustrated in my drawing, then it's going to be because those goals aren't being met by my drawing experience. If I acknowledge the goals, firstly, I can adjust what they are. Perhaps some of them I realize I've slipped into and they really are not goals that I want to be directing how I feel and what I do about drawing. Or perhaps the goals are great and I want to keep them as my goals, but I need to change my process because my process isn't taking them there. Perhaps I need to change some of my attitudes and expectations if I'm going to get there. But understanding why I'm doing this is the starting point, really, for everything. However, beyond block goals, there are some more generalized reasons why we can end up being frustrated. So let me run through a few of these, and perhaps some of these you can add to your list of why you're feeling so discouraged with drawing. And the first is, it's much harder than I thought it was going to be to get good results or to see any improvement. Unrealistic expectations always sets us up to fail. always gives us something that we're going to have to overcome if we persevere at some stage in the future. That includes in drawing. Perhaps I was never prepared for the hard work and effort that's involved in learning a skill. Perhaps I had vague expectations that really, once I tried, because of my talent, because of what people have said about me and my drawing ability in the past, it would just happen fairly easily, that if I drew, it would look good. If that's the case, I have to reset my expectations. Perhaps it doesn't really suit me to keep drawing now that I understand the process is more about work and study and practice. Perhaps I'm discouraged because I'm just not improving, that I put lots of work and effort into drawing, that I draw lots and lots and lots, but there's just no change in the way my drawings look. All the same problems still seem to be there. And this frustration comes from the mistaken belief that if I just do it over and over again, I will get better. It's not the repetition that leads to the improvement, but it's learning to do things the right way with the most helpful process, the most helpful methods. Sadly, practice can lead me to do the same unhelpful drawing things over and over and over again, which at some point can actually make it harder to overcome them. It's not just practice, it's informed practice that I need to be doing. If I'm not happy with how my drawings look, if that's the frustration, then I need more input to understand what I'm wanting them to look like, what they might possibly look like, and then how I can draw to get my drawings to look like that. Sometimes my discouragement, if I'm honest, comes from the fact that I feel that everybody else can draw better than me, that somehow they're able to do something that I can't do despite all my effort. And discouragement can come from constant comparison. It's not looking at other people's drawings for inspiration or for ideas or for direction that's a problem, but it's looking at them and making judgments about who they are, and therefore then about who I am and what they can do and what I can't do. That's the problem. Comparison really is the thief of joy. There will always be someone better than me. When I look at the work of others, I need to be very in control of the framework with which I see their work. I filter their work and I use looking at their work within myself and my own drawing process, and not let it be something that somehow judges my ability, my worth, who I am. If you're finding some of these points helpful, please hit the like button for me. And why not subscribe? Sometimes our frustration can come because we've been drawing for a while and we've actually been encouraged by what we've done and by our progress, and then suddenly we hit a wall. And this can be very discouraging because I feel somehow I've had something and now I've lost it. Now, this can happen for various reasons. Sometimes I've had life experience that has just equipped me to do very well very quickly in the early section of learning to draw, but I then reach the point where to progress any further, I need to use the things that not so much I've just picked up on the way, but things that I need to learn now quite specifically to improve my drawing. In other words, I have been able to coast up till now, and there's been nothing wrong with that because I've been able to. But to go on from here, I have to become more serious. I have to change my expectations about what the process, what the journey is. Whether I'm prepared to put the effort into doing what I need to do to learn what I need to learn to progress beyond this point. Sometimes my frustration with my drawing simply comes from impatience. I want to be at the end now. I want all the benefits now. I don't want to have to do the hard work between here and there. Perhaps I've never had to work as hard as I'm having to work in drawing now. And so it's a bit of a shock. And of course, some of us, for different reasons, end up feeling impatient more quickly, more easily than other people. So this can be a huge reason for feeling discouraged, for feeling frustrated at where my drawing's getting me, because I thought I would be somewhere much faster. It may not be what I'm doing or my progress that's a problem at all. The problem may really just be my time expectations. Sometimes the reason for my frustration in my drawing is actually ignorance. I look to see what other people are doing and can do, and I think, man, they can do it. I can't. They're just able to do it. I'm not. I don't have what they have. Perhaps I watch their drawing videos and see how quickly and how easily they make a drawing appear on the page. And I think of the struggle that it is for me to get something that doesn't look nearly as good as what they've done. The truth is, I haven't seen their journey. I've seen possibly their end result, certainly the end result at this stage. And it may have been 30, 40 years of drawing, or thousands of hours of drawing in less time, or incredibly intensive study and practice, at great cost and sacrifice perhaps even. Maybe they spent tens of thousands of dollars on very carefully chosen education, courses and so forth. And that's enabled them to get to the place they're at. But I don't see any of that when I see a 3-minute time lapse of them doing something amazing. I just think, oh, they can do it and I can't, and why am I bothering? If you've ever found yourself thinking about someone else and their drawing, oh gee, they're lucky that they can draw like that, then I'm saying that in ignorance, because it is never luck. It's simply I haven't seen, I don't appreciate, perhaps I can't even comprehend the work and effort they've put in to get into that place. I've just seen them in that place and, well, maybe I'm jealous. There's nothing wrong with the motivation of wanting what someone else has, but in itself, it doesn't give me direction as to how they got there, let alone how I might get to that place or someplace similar. This next reason for drawing frustration is not nearly as psychological, and that's simply that I can't find time to draw. And as is the case in most things, there are seasons and rhythms in life that often direct what we can and can't do. And depending what our other commitments, our other responsibilities are, whether it's to work or whether it's to people or whether it's to other things that we're doing, it simply may not be a time in my life where I can give enough time to reach the goal that I have. It's not that I can't reach the goal, but the constraints of things that I need to do or other things I want to do simply means that my timeline is not going to be realistic. Sometimes I really do need grace to accept the things that I can't change. But not having as much time as I hope to have to draw doesn't mean I have to stop drawing, but perhaps it means I need to change my expectation of my drawing process and therefore progress. Maybe I need to try drawing smaller things in much shorter time periods at less frequent intervals. Perhaps frustration isn't so much the primary thing that's robbing me of enjoyment in drawing. Perhaps it ends up being fear. Fear that somehow I'm going to prove something to myself that I don't want to be true, and that maybe I was drawing even to prove that it wasn't true. Fear that I won't be as good as other people. Fear that I don't have this ability that I've always hoped or thought I had. Fear that I'm never going to be a success in some way that I've always dreamt that I could be a success. And because fear, well, is obviously a very painful feeling to have, our feelings always come from a place. The place isn't always obvious, and the things that cause them even isn't always very obvious. But there is a place, and with a little digging around, we can often find it. And one very large area of frustration, which leads many people to, in the end, just stop drawing, is perfectionism, which isn't having high standards. It's not trying to make our drawing look really good. It's the inability to cope with anything that doesn't look right, that somehow the drawing goes beyond being a drawing and becomes an expression of who I am, my capability, my worth. And I can't cope with anything not looking right. I can't cope with the thought of anyone seeing something that perhaps doesn't look right in my drawing. It has to be something that's perfect for me and perhaps to impress others as well. I set up an expectation that goes way beyond my ability, and then I always fail. And instead of learning to draw in a holistic, healthy, productive way of looking at a whole drawing and aiming for a whole drawing, I end up becoming more and more focused on every little line, every little mark, agonizing over whether it's exactly in the right place and erasing it if it's not. And then if my new mark isn't quite right, I erase it again. And sometimes I erase more of the drawing than I end up leaving on the paper. It becomes such a tense affair, the whole drawing process for me, that I start to put off starting a drawing. I'll get ready and then I'll walk around the house making excuses as to why I won't actually sit down right this minute. Or maybe even I get halfway through. And you see, it's not logical. It's not because I necessarily make mistakes. The fear of making mistakes can also immobilize me as well. So in fact, the more a drawing progresses without any problems, the more fearful I become that I will make a mistake and ruin what I've done. And this fear can become so great that we abandon drawings halfway through because we become afraid we're going to wreck them. It's not logical. It's not related to my drawing, really. It's related to issues within myself that perhaps I need to look at. I've had to deal with perfectionism myself, and the way out of it for me was to start to draw directly in ink. I removed the possibility to use an eraser because by erasing lines constantly, I was feeding the perfectionism. By giving myself a way of correcting everything that didn't look perfect to me as I did it, it forced me to just keep drawing, to not see a drawing as the bit by bit, but to see the drawing as all the marks, all the lines combined together for the effect at the end. That even if every mark wasn't perhaps perfectly positioned, that I could probably either cover that up in some way before the end of the drawing or simply distract attention by the rest of the drawing so that it wasn't at all obvious. It wasn't an easy thing to do at the start, but it did kill off perfectionism in my drawing process and in my thinking as well. As I came to see the process of drawing differently, it let me relax a whole lot more during the process. The other thing to bear in mind in all this is that our goals can change. We can start the drawing journey with a very clear, perhaps a very simple set of aims, goals, perhaps just to enjoy the journey, have some fun. At some point, perhaps, particularly if we meet those goals, now we can start to add other goals onto that because we can see or sense more opportunities, more potentials. Perhaps some of these additional goals even are unacknowledged. And perhaps it's some of these that are now causing frustration to develop. It's always helpful, I believe, in life to understand why we're doing things, to know what our motivation is. It helps us to make choices more easily, more clearly, more accurately. And that surely should give us more chance of reaching the places that we're wanting to reach. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. Look, if you're frustrated with where you're at in your journey, I hope one or two of these points at least may have given you a place to look, to think, to reflect, to perhaps rethink and perhaps strategize some ways that you might deliberately push through that or just step back from it or move around it, whatever is helpful for you. Because in the end, let's not lose track of the fact that we want to enjoy the drawing process. So whatever you're doing, for whatever reason, make sure you can have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.